Zoom does this whole loading thing, and then Twitch has to open and load. So like, there's always these whole moments of like, are we streaming or?
I may ask you about it on Sunday.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I'm really excited for the show on Sunday.
Me too. It should be really interesting. The guest is a very cool person. Her name is Bala, and she is the artistic director for Improv Comedy Bangalore. And very wonderful.
Paula?
Yeah,
She's the guest on his show I did like 2 weeks ago.
Was she really?
I just met her, yeah.
Yeah, she's super cool. And she's doing all kinds of great stuff all over the world. So I was like, you're a very open person. You're somebody who I think would be fun to read cards for and discover more about your life if you're willing. And she was.
Yes. Well, I took the advice that your tarot reading gave me in my mind, and it's been playing out in a very interesting fashion, which I will not discuss here.
That's fine. This interview is, you're interviewing me, not the other way around. I understand.
Anyway, world, thank you for joining us. Hello. We're here on No Pants here with Neil Leahy, and I'm super excited to talk to him. If you're joining us anywhere besides Twitch, go ahead and move over to Twitch so that we can talk in the chat, and you can send me questions for Neil if you have any. Neil, how are you doing today?
I'm pretty good. It's a lovely fall day here in New England, so like, you know, the world is as happy as it can be.
Nice. Well, that's awesome to hear. It's kind of a little drizzly and overcast here, but like in a just lovely change of pace from, you know, other summer things that have been going on. Yeah. So anyway, if anybody is watching and wants to say hi in the chat, or if you have any questions for Neil, throw them in the chat. Neil and I didn't get to do a pre-interview, so I feel like you have this whole history that I don't know a ton about, and I'm really excited to find out about.
Okay, cool.
One of the things that I found out about recently from a Facebook comment and response situation is that you've been a paid improviser, which I know is like, is that correct?
Oh yeah.
I think for a lot of people, like they don't know if they can make money doing improv. Tell us about that.
Sure. So I've been paid in a couple of different contexts, like for performing. I think the first time was little backstory. When I first moved to Rhode Island, I met some wonderful folks and started a improv company in a city called Newport in Rhode Island, it's sort of like a party resort city, if that makes sense. Like people, impossibly rich people go there to do stuff. Like I'm gonna sail in on my yacht and enjoy the week in Newport, but also like, yeah, like that, only yeah, like that. And also like there's just a huge like club, party, beach thing that goes on there. So like also like regular folks go there too to like go to the clubs. So some friends of mine and I started a company down there doing improv shows, and it was very like light entertainment stuff, and it was great. Like it was really perfect for like I want to go laugh and have a good time and then like go hit up the club, right? So like I did that for a while, and like that group made at the time and still does make, well, at least up until like the world shut down in March, what it was making a good bit of cash, which was great. So it was like, yeah, I've got this like pretty steady part-time gig. I've also done like some historical reenactment stuff that was largely improvised that has been really fun and has made me some cash. And here and there, done shows and gigs and things.
Yeah.
But like anybody else, I also perform for free sometimes too, especially if it's like projects that I care about a lot. I've left out that before March, I was doing a lot of live in-person improvised shows at the place that was my in real life home base, which is a contemporary theater company in Rhode Island. And those were like, hey, you're a real actor, we're gonna pay you not a living wage, but like a small amount of cash. for those. So like, yeah, you can make money as an improviser. I just, you know, have a daytime job too.
Mhm.
um, but that's, yeah,
That's cool. I was super curious about that. So thank you for sharing.
yeah, big answer to your question.
Yeah. So how long have you been improvising?
Um, I have hazy on the year. I think it was about 2004, 2003, 2004, something like that. So a while, um, but yeah, it doesn't mean anything other than I've been at it a while.
Mhm. Has it has like improv philosophy sort of changed you in any way or the way you approach life?
Yeah, yeah, I think so. Um, you know, I when I was a kid, I came from a like a childhood that was less than ideal, and was dealing with some hard things, and um, it helped me a lot to like um, just like keep looking at like how people connect with each other and be open with each other, and it's helped me like really just be more like emotionally available because you have to be, and keep teaching yourself how to be able to do that, whether you're like here on Zoom or you're in real life in person with somebody, and
Yeah,
it's made me absolutely a better person.
I love that. I love that so much. I'm like basking in it.
You're
Yeah.
very sweet.
Have you ever taught improv?
Sure, yeah. So like in lots of different contexts, um, mostly like I think the big like uh, blocks that I've taught in, or contexts that I've taught in. I have a good friend of mine from New Zealand who was living in Rhode Island until just the world changed and we needed to move away. Like namely, politics got a little too crazy, and like he couldn't be here. But he and I living in our state, um, there's a lot of income disparity. There's a lot of folks who are very, very poor, and a lot of folks were like, "I'm going to sail my yacht to Newport this week." Exactly, like you go pop open another champagne. I'm thirsty, and like the two things don't meet. So then you have a lot of people who don't have access to arts education for lots of different reasons, and he and I, along with some other folks, decided like we need to make something to deal with this. So we made a program that goes into high schools and teaches people about narrative structure, like using like the standards that English language arts teachers need to meet to like teach kids about narrative through improvising. So like I've been doing that for a while, like did that for maybe like 6 years, something like that. So like going into, some high schools that have some challenges, some like some very real things that like kids are dealing with, and doing this work, and that's really been cool. I've done a little bit of teaching just in like the company I was talking about, the contemporary theater company, and I've done a tiny bit of teaching, just like traveling and teaching, a little around the U.S. and a little bit internationally too. So that's been really cool. But I'm not at the like, uh, you know, oh wow, we have to get Neil for our festival stage. More like the oh hey, like that guy might be interesting stage. So yes, I've done some teaching and it's
That
been
is
really
so
rewarding.
cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Awesome. I know when John was on, he was saying that in his like philosophy, every teacher has a thing that they kind of love to teach because they find it most helpful.
Mhm.
Do you have like a thing like that that's sort of your thing that you cover every time or that you think really helps people level up?
Yeah, that's interesting that you say that because I'm in the middle of working on this series of workshops I'm teaching later this month to this cohort of Italian students that I feel like I'm in this uh, like dream group of people. It's like, oh, these great teachers and me. Um, and it's a really interesting, fascinating program. Unfortunately, you have to be in Italy to do it because it's like there's physical things like where you're in person and then online things where you're with people like me. But it's all about um, looking at people who are like uh, losers in some way that like aren't successful in different ways, and like the lens I often like to look at when I teach, but also with this thing that I'm doing, is looking at like things behind status that people have,
Mhm.
and that's really, it's something that's always interesting to me and always like is a kind of a lens to look at improvisation that can often give people a lot to work on right away.
Yeah. I remember when I learned status, it sort of blew my mind because there are all these sort of little nuances that you don't realize. Like one of the things we were told is for the low status people to like move your head a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, and like need a lot of space. And I never thought like it sort of struck me as like almost personally like an aggressive male move to like get in someone's space and not move your head. But I was like, that was so interesting as like a high status versus low status tell to me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a little harder over Zoom, but like, it doesn't have to be aggressive. Like,
It wasn't described as aggressive, but I thought of it when it was like get really close to them and don't move your head a lot. I was like, whoa, it's a little.
yeah. Or if you, like you said, if you just hold eye contact, like if I just hold eye contact to the camera
Mm-hmm.
and don't move my head too much
Mm-hmm.
and have a lot to say, then it reads a little more high status than if I'm just kind of like, oh hey, it's me again. Good to see you. Right? It's yeah.
That's super cool. And what do you think like is the impact of people really learning more about status? Why is that important to you to teach?
Well, it's easy. Okay, so like too often, you go to see an improvised show, whether it's online or in person, and you get these people who are just like, I'm going to stand here in my little space. If you're in real life, it's like, we're okay. We're about our 2 meters apart from each other. Okay, good. Let's stand here and trade quips and things. And it doesn't look like you're watching human beings interact with each other. You're just like, I don't know. It just doesn't read as anything very interesting. But if you're starting to think about status, it starts to sort of unlock a bunch of things in people. And then when you start realizing, like, oh, I could use these things to do things on stage or in life, it's a pretty powerful tool. um, and yeah, it can be really, awesome, like to look at it that way and then use that to like just start making more choices available for yourself and start to inspire other people. Like, oh, I can't help but react to that. I guess I'm gonna move, our little distance around a little bit, and all of a sudden, like, there's two human beings who might be engaging on stage.
Yeah. That's so interesting. I have that gripe often about Zoom prov where I feel like I'm watching a meeting because people will stay in the center of their square and just talk. And I know that I'm totally guilty of it because sometimes even there will be a voice in the back of my head that's like, I'm not really inspired to any particular object. Like this just feels like a conversation. But what are your thoughts on doing Zoom prov? Like, do you have personal things that you do to make it better, or things that you want to see more, or what?
Yeah, there's stuff I want to see more, both in myself and in the Zoom improv that I watch,
Mhm.
which is like we've been given this really powerful opportunity to both improvise, but it's almost like you're improvising a film that you have like a hand in directing.
Mhm.
Right? Like, I mean, yes, I'm obviously not standing in a forest right now. I'm behind a green screen because I don't want to see you, or you all probably don't want to see my bookshelf and my cat, or at least probably not. But so like, oh, we have this like powerful opportunity to be anywhere, and to like have a little hand in like shooting a movie together and like using the screen together. I could leave and just there's so many like options we have available to ourselves. We don't need to be like um, it's a corporate meeting
Yeah.
or like I don't know what to do with myself, right? It's a new set of challenges and tools that I need to explore more, but I think we as a community of performers could definitely stand to explore more too.
Yes, totally. When we went online, I had set for myself in not online improv the challenge of like really getting into environment and physicality and object work. And when we went online, I was at first like, well, I guess that this means that I will just really focus on like the basics of what I say and just what comes out of my mouth is going to level up. And then I felt like, not that I'm done doing that, but I worked on that for a while, and now I feel again, like you said, just the space, the background, that like, how are we making this visually something other than a meeting between
Yeah,
two people? Totally.
absolutely. It really kind of hit home for me. I was performing with a group of friends who have a wonderful improv company, Mopco, in New York. They're great and have been super welcoming. And if you don't know Kat Coppett and Michael Burns, you should because they're great. But I was working with a friend of mine in their show. They do like they perform Maestro, which is basically like an improvised air quotes competitive show that just it reads a lot like a lot of very short scenes. And I was doing a scene with this friend of mine, and there was going to potentially be some movement involved, and dancing, and she just pivoted her camera so I could see that she was actually standing in a dance studio. That was just where she happened to be. And I was just like, oh, we could. Oh, I'm so excited. Okay, like, and I realized like that's the first time in months that like I've felt like really physically free to break the like sort of medium shot standing up frame
Yeah.
thing. Yeah. So anyway.
Totally. I had a similar experience last night because Michael Jewell from Austin guest starred with us,
Yeah.
and he, had his computer in a room like much like I have mine, where you could stand up and stuff and move around. Not right now, but where I usually have mine for shows. And he had like a little love seat in the back, and he was like jumping on the couch, like he used the whole room. And I realized like I use the space in front of the camera, but I don't really use the whole room. And
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's a little love seat this way in my screen. I don't always jump on it because sometimes my cat's there sleeping and she's like 20. I don't want to break her, but I could absolutely, sort of like
yeah, love seat in the forest.
right, exactly. So there's all kinds of physical options available to us that can be really fun, for sure.
Yeah, yeah. And how did you come up with the idea for these tarot shows? Because I love them so much and I think it's so creative and unique. And I want to talk about them because we have one coming up on Sunday.
We sure do. And if you're watching this, oh man, tune in because there's going to be wonderful guest artists from India that are going to be there, along with the whole No Pants crew. How did I come up with it? Good story. So earlier this year,
Mhm.
um, I had to learn how to read tarot for a show. I was in a murder mystery show at my like in real life home company. That doesn't make it more real than No Pants. It's just like physical as opposed to virtual.
Hmm.
But like I was in there with my physical theater company, the Contemporary Theater company, and we were doing a murder mystery that was set in the 20s, and I really wanted to like be a spiritualist. So it's like, cool, I gotta come up with something. So I learned how to read tarot cards earlier this year for that show, which was really fun to see. Like, oh, how does me reading tarot potentially in the show change the show?
Hmm.
And it was fascinating to see like sometimes the cards would actually like read the future of that character, not like in the show. Anyway, it was very interesting. So I did that, and then stayed inspired, and we did a 36-hour improv marathon after that um,
Wow.
with a mentor of mine. So um, I was there for the full 36 hours. I was one of the folks who was called on to do that, which is awesome. Like if you're an improviser and you're out there and you ever get the chance to do a marathon show like that, I 1,000% recommend it. We did it just before things started to lock down, so like when we could still do in-person shows.
Mhm.
And I was inspired by this other guy who's a mentor of mine. His name is Sean Kinley from Calgary, Canada, who really is like a world class, like internationally famous teacher. And he was staying with us in Rhode Island for a little while. And we were doing a lot of work with like people's truth and like interviewing them. I was like, ooh, what if I like took these two things and put them together? So I experimented with it in this big 36-hour block of time that I had to improvise with people. And it went really, really well. And that was kind of like the bones of the show. And then from there, it's just been exploring it online and sort of like filling it out. Right.
Yeah. And I love that. That's a really cool story.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. And I was thinking about the tarot show the other day. I think it's really interesting that you mentioned like people's truth because I was thinking about how if we do an Armando, it's like someone will tell a story and then free form improvise for whatever, connections that makes. And I don't know what your improv education was like, but same thing for me in classes. Like when we would get a suggestion, it's like whatever that brings up for you.
Right.
Right? And I was doing also a couple of shows in a format I think our director Marie DeWall made up for the nursery in the UK,
Mm.
but it was about food. And so we would have someone, it's an international cast, and we would have a guest come on and make us food from their culture from a different country than the rest of the cast, who was already from like 6 countries, including like where they live now and where they are. At least I think. And so that's how I met Bala because she cooked for us. She cooked
Great.
dosa for us. But it was a very similar thing where it was like she cooked for us. She shared with us what it meant to her culture and her, a lot of growing up stories, right? Because food is so connected to family and stuff. But then it was very free form improvised. And I know that when we do the tarot shows, one thing that's really important too is keeping the improv closer to the guest's truth and what
Absolutely.
feels like they want to have and create and already have. Um, how did you decide to do that differently and like talk about the importance of that for you?
Sure. Well, I decided it partly from some of the stuff that I was working on with this mentor of mine. Partly like a lot of the improv philosophy that I come from is like sort of rooted in ideas that Keith Johnstone has. Not solely, but like a big part of it. And one of the formats that he also has out there that it's a little hard to watch because there aren't that many examples of it. But something called the life game, where they're sitting down, interviewing a person, and improvising and sort of exploring details about this person's life. So I was a little inspired by watching that too,
Hmm.
and listening to it. It's also a radio show on the CBC sometimes, not always. I think you can go to the CBC and listen to it. But anyway, so I was really inspired by that. Like, okay, instead of just like, hey, I'm going to throw something up and then we go wherever, which is fine. Like, there's nothing wrong with working that way. It's great. I like Armando's too. But like looking more at like, okay, um, great. Here's what the cards are showing. Now let's see if by improvising we can discover more about what we found out as we play, or like can we find something more that might be true for this person, and what's like their personal truth that we're discovering, and what things might be universal that we can explore too, right? Everybody falls in love. Everybody has a job, hopefully, of some sort. Right? Some things are everywhere. And then hopefully at the end of the show, just like in real life with the tarot, you're not locked into what the cards say. You could always do something different because you're a person and you have agency. So in the show, the players might improvise your future from what they see in the cards. If you don't like that, you can ask them to do something else, and they will. So
Sorry, my Alexa decided to talk in the middle of your talking, but I heard everything that you said, and I think it's really cool. And like you said, I love Armando's too, but I love having the variety of like
exactly.
we're really using improv, and improv is so much about like group mind and kind of pulling things out from the ether. It's cool to sort of tailor it to see like can we pull out someone who we've never met, like their what feels true to them. It's really amazing.
Absolutely. And I think the variety thing is what you said is what's important, right? Because like there's not a right way to do any of this. It's really just like having more choices in the improv sphere and being able to explore all of them. And that's one of the cool things about No Pants is that we all come from all different improv backgrounds, but we all play together and respect where everybody comes from, and then like get to learn more about like how we all approach the world.
Yeah, super cool. I love it. Well, I know that you have a day job that you have to get back to at some point. Is there anything that you want to talk about that we haven't covered, or anything that I haven't asked you, or anything you feel inspired to share?
Um, Gosh, there's nothing that's really coming to mind. I don't know, Nicole. What's a something you want to know about me that I haven't told you yet? Um,
Well, on a personal level, I would love to know what your vices are because you seem like a very well behaved individual, and I would love to see the other side, like just know a little bit about the other side of Neil.
all right, sure. My vices. Um, let's see. Huh, my wife texts me now. Uh, Great. I hope you're not watching. Shh. So my vices. I think I love um, like the occasional like cigar. I love going out and like staying out late with far too late with people for and I don't know, having a good drink, or like going out dancing with people. Those are super fun. I love potato chips. Oh man, I can't keep those in the house. Those are a vice of mine. They're all pretty tame vices, I guess, which is good because we're broadcasting this. What are some of my other vices that I can think of right offhand? Um, I think sometimes I also like get a little distracted. So online, getting sucked into social media can sometimes be a doom scrolling. Like everybody else in the world has become a new vice of mine that I need to like rip out of my life.
Mhm.
Stop looking at my murder rectangle about what's going on in the world. um, but because it's going to happen whether I like it or not. But yeah, those are some of my vices, I guess, that
Thank
come to
you.
mind.
Thank you for sharing today. Very strange question. One last question.
Okay.
If the whole world opened back up today,
Yeah,
what would you go do tonight?
that's a really good question. Well, tonight I'm scheduled to go play in an online jam with my friends, and I promised them that I would go, so I would go, because I think that's important. And I've always been an actor and a person who like tries to follow through with things. So I would still keep that plan. But I think the other thing that I would do is as soon as it was done, I live a little distance away from the physical theater that I play at, back when that was real. And I would probably drive down there when that online jam was done. And they would probably be having some kind of giant happy party, and I would probably go and hug everybody and tell them how much I miss them.
Hugs and humans. I miss them so much too. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's special. Thank you so much for coming on and talking and sharing and everything. I loved it. It was wonderful.
I love you too. Anytime.
Yeah. All right. Bye, Twitchverse. We'll see you later. Next week on No Pants Here, I'm actually performing with the food ensemble just as a special, we're running short on cast members to interview. And so I decided to do a show. So if anybody is free next Thursday at 12:30, we're going to have somebody come and cook for us. And then we'll do improv based on that. And they've all been amazing and very, like I said, a lot of like family and childhood and growing up and culture. And it's so fun. So
That's
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. Bye.